Hello everyone, this is DearMamaSal, and it is a blistering 17 degrees already here in southern British Columbia. And that would make it 61 if you're sitting in northern Washington State. Quite warm. I wonder how your day was yesterday. Were any of you happy? I got some really nice feedback from a couple of you, and I appreciated it. I really enjoyed a couple of the things that Manon talked about. She said that she really enjoyed listening to children trying to explain what they'd learned at school. And that made me think about how much I enjoy children explaining a movie. Do you ever wonder, how do they remember all that stuff? It's like, I don't know why. It was just like, really? How do you? And then, oh, I forgot this bit, right at the beginning. And I mean, what's scary is how much they can remember, what detail they can remember. And I don't know about you, I feel really lucky if I can remember the plot line, never mind what Zuzu said to the Lion King or whatever, or Simba. It's just like, I always remember this 5-year-old telling me the story of the Lion King. It took 3 hours. It really did. It took 3 hours before her mother came and got her. And her mother actually said to me, sorry, sir. I was gardening, and she was standing with me all the time I was gardening, and the mother said, what's she doing? And I said, she's telling me about the Lion King. She said, for 3 hours? I said, yeah. I said, because every time she remembers another bit, and that in turn makes her remember other bits. And so it goes on. But what a great memory. I mean, it's 20 years later, I still remember. And the incredible thing was the joy with which she was telling me this story. I was trying to work out whether I'd never want to watch The Lion King again, or whether it made me actually go and watch. I think it made me go and watch the movie, because I just was so impressed with the effect it had had on a young person. And of course then I heard the soundtrack and What's Not to Love, and there was discussion this week, I can't remember with whom, but we were talking about great soundtracks, and they were saying that The Lion King was a phenomenal soundtrack for a movie. And I said yes, second only to The Jungle Book. And I know The Jungle Book dates me, but that in its day was the most phenomenal soundtrack. And I still hear songs out of that soundtrack, and I smile from ear to ear. It just makes me really happy. And so it's just amazing. So yeah, that's a good point actually. Which movies made you happy? Yeah, let's get some of those out, because I think it's all about knowing what makes you happy, and that's what we're trying to find out this week. I had a wonderful moment yesterday, and I did put a comment up on Facebook, but in case people didn't see that, I had a wonderful moment yesterday where I found that somebody had sent us a check for an invoice they'd already paid. And it happens. So I wrote this note to the client and I said, we've just got a new policy that we've put in place, and wherein we only allow clients to pay their invoices once. So please enjoy spending this money elsewhere and return the check. Yeah, we're only allowed to pay invoices once. So I'm hoping that it would cause the person who opened the envelope to do a double take and then hopefully a smile. And I think that is what my goal is as well this week, not to just find out what makes me happy, but for far as I can to make other people happy. In other words, create that laughter. It's quite funny because I do that quite a lot with my day. People will phone me and they'll say, can I ask you another question? I go, is this Tuesday? Yes? No, I only allow one question on Tuesdays. And it's so funny because people actually take me quite seriously. And then I burst out laughing and I go, actually, no, I'm just having fun here. I said, forgive me. If I don't make my job fun, nobody's going to. And it's amazing how many people agree with me. And consequently, I've now got clients who will phone me and say, hey Sal, it's Tuesday. I know I'm only allowed one question. So I'll try and and they'll put about 6 questions into one question because they know it's Tuesday and they're only allowed one question. Now, I'm training people to have a sense of humor with me. Now, what's not enjoyable about that? What's not fun about that? And I think that is what makes my life happy. So I look at my day and I realize I actually work quite hard, in a nice way, at making my days happy. I don't leave it to chance, do you? Do you just sort of wake up going, I wonder if today will be a happy day? Yeah, right. Or do you actually make it happy? It was so funny. I was putting on my makeup this morning with my Uber fat brush that I have, and I realized that I now have a set of beautiful brushes that Judy gave me. I mean, they really are magnificent brushes. I have the foggiest idea what to do with them, so I will have to experiment with that. But it was so funny because I'm sitting there using my Uber brush Uber as in fat, and that I've always used, and and I thought, I've got the right one somewhere. And I know I've used one of them. I guess because I am not really totally sure what to do with each of the brushes. So I think what I've got to do then is to sort of work with that and find out. I wonder how much of today you can make happy, and this is our topic for the day, by not blaming things, people, situations. Now, in order to stop blaming, you have to do a really horrible thing. And I've got to be quite honest about this. And when you first start doing this, it's a bit of a pain because you're probably not used to it. But I really recommend it to everybody who hasn't done it up until now. In order to stop blaming, you have to be accountable for your actions. In other words, if you're running late for work, you need to let go of the excuse and go, I'm running late for work because I didn't get up early enough. Or if you've lost your keys, that you don't blame everybody around you, but rather if you've lost your keys, that you say, I lost my keys because I didn't put them back in the right place. Let's think what other famous ones are there. Oh, I ran out of gas because I was stupid enough not to have a routine about filling up my car. I lost the decal or decal for my insurance on my trailer because I put it in a safe place instead of the usual place. By the way, I found it. Of course, I can't use it now because the cops know that that's a lost decal. Which is really quite funny. So I've got to go and buy another one. So, you look at it and you just got to change your blame crutches. And they are crutches, they're crutches that we sort of stumble along on. Instead of just taking ownership of our stuff. What is it that, we've got to blame the world for who we are. Yeah, it's all right for her, she's thin. Well, guess why she's thin? Doesn't eat as much as you do. Or she does exercise or does a workout routine. Okay, it's all right for her, she's got, whatever. That's all blaming stuff. Of course, it's jealousy, but it's part of blaming. Is what you're saying is that she's not okay because I found, now I'm not perfect. Don't get the wrong idea here. I'm definitely not perfect. I'm working on it. I'm a work in progress. Definitely a work in progress. There's no doubt about that. So when I look at it, I used to spend a lot of my time blaming everybody else for my misfortune or fortune. Oh no, I didn't blame anybody for my fortune. Have you noticed that? And I guess that would go hand in hand with it, but we'll talk about gratitude and in another... No, let's talk about it now. Because I think blame and gratitude sort of are interesting ends of this discussion. Because if you are going to blame people for your bad luck, then who are you thanking for your good luck? It's like that young lady who phoned me on Mother's Day to thank me for something I'd said 2 years ago. Wow. And in her mind it had changed her life. Well, of course it didn't. What it did was it triggered her in some way, and what she did with that changed her life. But it's like, who do you bother to thank? Have you ever phoned up your old teacher and said thank you for, one that you liked, because they instilled something good in you, or they were always fair, or whatever? You ever done that? 10 years later, 20 years later, if they're still around, it's like, can you imagine? I mean, I know what it feels like. People do it to me. It's a wonderful feeling, because you know that you've made a difference in somebody's life. If I could get a message through to Mrs. Hobbs, who's undoubtedly very long gone now, and I would really thank her. Mrs. Hobbs was my art and sewing teacher, and she did both crafts. I really would not be who I am today were it not for that lady. Because she knew that I only went to those lessons to get out of doing homework. I was at a boarding school. I only did those lessons to get out of doing some level of homework. And then she discovered, to her absolute amazement, I actually had some talent. And she had the humor to work with both. And I thanked her for that. It was really very kind of her. And I know when I left school, I actually had quite a conversation with her. So who is it that you haven't thanked? If you can, thank them. You know, maybe it's your mom, maybe it's your dad, maybe it's your uncle, maybe it's an aunt, maybe... I had an aunt that was really, really good to me. And the way she was really good to me was she listened to me. It was like when nobody else was listening, she actually heard me on stuff. She actually didn't treat me like I was a child. She treated me like I was a being with opinions and... You know what I mean? She really... When I sat and spoke to her, she stopped. There's a question. When you talk to people, how often do you stop and actually listen? Because I'm pretty sure that would make them incredibly happy. Or how many times do you get on with your life while you pretend to listen? Now, I know it's called multitasking. I understand that. I totally understand it. I do it all the time. But it was funny because I found that when, for example, when Dougie came, I quickly did what I needed to do and most of it was ready. And then I sat down and looked him in the eye and we had a conversation. Now, I think I spoke more than I should have done. In other words, did I talk more than 50% of the time? Yep. Afraid so. You're probably not surprised to hear that. And who's to blame for that? I am, totally. Bad manners on my part. How arrogant of me to think that my conversation was more important than his. See? There you go. Am I going to beat up on myself for it? No. I'm going to go, good point. Next time, make sure that you get him doing more than 50% of the talking. Then we'll be even. How's that? I like that. So your goal for today is work on not blaming things, people, situations. Work on taking your accountability in life. Now, I know there are a lot of you that have every reason to blame because of your situation, but let's forget about that one today and move on to the other things. In other words, if you do have some situation where blame is valid, thinking about somebody like Ashley or Robin, you know, where they had things happen in their life, or Roseanne, where they had things happen in their life that they cannot recover from. Do they have a right to blame? I guess in a way they do, right? So I wonder how they stopped doing that, because if they lived their days blaming all the time, they'd be very miserable people. And my experience is that they're not. So I wonder what they did to stop blaming. Maybe they've got a lesson for us there. At what point did they turn that around and just go, okay, this is what it is, and I'm going to get on with it? That would be quite interesting to hear how their thought process worked with it, because it might help some other people who are struggling. It's going to be a good day. had a little bit of an issue this morning when I put on the pants that I'm wearing that do not have an elastic waist. And I must admit, when I was looking in the mirror, it was the folds of fat that were hanging over the top of the waistline that did not make my day particularly happy to start with. I struggled to find a positive in that, because it quite grossed me out. And about the only thing I could think of was, thank God that I have enough food to be able to create that amount of fat. That was the only thing I could think of. So if anybody's got any positives on that one, let me know. Quite funny. All right, everybody, have an awesome day. Do everything you can to learn to be happy today, and start by cutting down on the amount you put blame on things and people. This is Dear Mama Sal saying bye-bye for now.